Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana. Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jayom Mishnapad Paramahamsa Parivajaka Shrotra Sata Srimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thy Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shri Radha. Please excuse me. I was a little late this morning. I'm just trying to get ready for the kids to go to school. Is it not stable? This morning we continue to read from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 3. We're beginning with text number 32. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhaktir Bhavati Bhavati Naishtike. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We have like almost 32 verse from 32 to verse 38 that we have to cover today, and so there will be like a lot of reading, and in between I will just be just sharing my whatever I heard from the senior devotees. And so we'll begin with text number 32. But I think we will chant 33, and that's what I will be trying to speak a little more on. So I will read text 32. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tvam Eva Purva Sarge Buhu Vrishni Swayam Bhuve Sati Tadayam Sutapa Nama Prajaptir Akalmashaha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear mother, best of the chaste, in your previous birth, in the Swayambhuva millennium, you were known as Prishni, and Vasudev, who was the most pious Prajapati, was named Sutapa. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead made it clear that Devaki had not become his mother only now. Rather, she had been his mother previously also. Krishna is eternal, and his selection of a father and mother from among his devotees takes place eternally. Previously also, Devaki had been the Lord's mother and Vasudev the Lord's father, and they were named Prishni and Sutapa. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he accepts his eternal father and mother, and they accept Krishna as their son. This pastime takes place eternally and is therefore called Nitya Leela. Thus, there was no cause for surprise or ridicule. As confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. One should try to understand the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Vedic authorities, not from imagination. One who follows his imaginations about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is condemned. Avajananti mahammuda manushyam tanum ashritam param bhava ajananto mam bhuta maheshwaram. The Lord appears as the son of his devotee by his param bhavam. The word bhava refers to the stage of pure love, which has nothing to do with material transactions. So in this verse, actually, Srila Prabhupada is stressing that, there is a need to understand the appearance and disappearance of the Lord from Vedic authorities or Shastras, Right now, we have so many so-called incarnations, you can find on YouTube, there's this person, that person. But unfortunately, they're only misdirecting the innocent people of this world. And it is so fortunate that we have this human form of life. And when we actually don't go according to the Guru Parampara that Krishna has established, the 4 sampradayas, the 4 bona fide sampradayas, then the whole purpose of human life is lost, The goal is, achieving the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and going back to the spiritual world. Would anyone like to share anything from this verse or purport, and then we can proceed to the next one? There's a wireless microphone around. Anyone would like to share? Would you like to go? We can do that. Okay, we'll do text number 33. We will do this responsibly. Yuvam vai brahmanadishto praja sarge yada tataha sanniyam indriya gramam tepate paramam tapaha. Yuvam vai brahmanadishto praja sarge yada tataha sanniyam indriyena gramam tepate paramam tapaha. Yuvam vai brahmanadishto praja sarge yada tataha sanniyam indriya gramam tepate paramam tapaha. Okay, we'll do word for word. Yuvam, both of you, Prishni and Sutapa. Why? Indeed, Brahmana Adishtav, ordered by Lord Brahma, who is known as Pitamaha, the father of the Prajapatis. Praja Sarge, in the creation of progeny. Yadha, when. Tataha, thereafter. Sanniyamya, keeping under full control. Indriya Gramam, the senses. Tepate, underwent. Paramam, very great. Tapaha, austerity. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. Imagine if we didn't have a purport to this verse. In this purport we will see how many wonderful points Srila Prabhupada will make. So we will read that. Translate. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Here is an instruction about how to use one's senses to create progeny. According to Vedic principles, before creating progeny, one must fully control the senses. This control takes place through the Garbhadan Samskar. In India, there is a great agitation for birth control in various mechanical ways. But birth cannot be mechanically controlled. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 13.9, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshano Adarshanam. Birth, death, old age, and disease are certainly the primary distresses of the material world. People are trying to control birth, but they are not able to control death. And if one cannot control death, one cannot control birth either. In other words, artificially controlling birth is not any more feasible than artificially controlling death. I will just stop here and we'll discuss this and then we'll go further. So in this first section, how Srila Prabhupada is saying that, he's speaking about the Garbhadan Samskara. I was listening to one lecture by His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Maharaj, and Maharaj was saying how this Garbhadan Samskara is a very, very important samskara when begetting children, Krishna conscious children. Actually, Maharaj was saying, when in Russia, when they were trying to, this was in the Soviet era, they were actually trying to eliminate all the intelligent people and make the entire society into like the most lowest class of mankind. And millions of people were killed in that process. And then in the end, they realized that what they did was like a big blunder, because there were no more leaders anymore. If everyone was like common people, how will they lead the nation? And then they went on to create an institute called the Institute of Family, I think it's called Institute of Family Creation or something like that. And then they did a lot of research, and finally they consulted the Vedas. And then their conclusion was, no, we should have everyone follow the Garbhadan Samskara. But later on the Cold War came, and then that never came into fruition. But then Maharaj quoted so many examples where there were very exalted Russian devotees who actually followed the Garbhadan Samskara, and then the result was glorious children, in their family. And Maharaj was giving one example of one family, they had 2 boys, very, very exalted. And one time, like 100 devotees went to Russia, to Mayapur. And then these 2 boys were in the Gurukul in Mayapur. They were studying. And then one of them, was just 14-year-old boy. He cooked an entire feast during the whole yatra for all these devotees, 100 devotees. And you can see like how the kids were so Krishna conscious as a result. And then there was one more funny pastime. Like they had a 4-year-old sister, the 2 boys, and she was like so fired up that she said to her parents, I want to go join the Gurukul in Mayapur. And they joined her, and it so happened that she had to take her grandmother, and the grandmother was not a devotee. And then the grandmother was interested to take this little Vaishnavi to the temple. And then she woke up and then she put a tilak. And then they were going out of the house, and she looked at her grandmother and she said, where's your tilak? And this grandmother is not even a devotee. And she said, I'm not a Hare Krishna, the grandmother said. And then this little devotee said, since we are in Mayapur, everyone is supposed to wear tilak. So I'm not going out of the house if you don't put tilak. And she made her wear tilak. And for the grandmother, it was like childish, This is my granddaughter. And she was just having fun with her. And so she put on tilak. And they started walking out. And then this little girl, she pulled out her bead bag and started chanting. And then she was chanting and she looked at her grandmother. She said, where's your bead bag? And then the grandmother said, I'm not a Hare Krishna. She gave the same reason. And then she said, you have to chant Hare Krishna. It feels embarrassing for me to walk with you if you're not chanting and I'm chanting. So she made her chant Hare Krishna. And eventually, the grandmother, she became a devotee, initiated devotee. And So this process that Srila Prabhupada gave us, this Garbhadan Samskara is so powerful that, see, this little child, she made her grandmother to take to Krishna consciousness. And for sure, these kids are not ordinary kids who are born with these, following this Garbhadan Samskara. And also in this first section, Srila Prabhupada is comparing controlling birth to controlling death. We all know that we are all going to age and we are all going to die. There's no way that we can control death. So similarly, there's no way you can control birth by any mechanical process, is what Srila Prabhupada is stressing in this first paragraph. Would anyone like to start reading from the second paragraph? And then you can just stop. I'll just tell you when to stop then. According to
Vedic civilization, procreation should not be contrary to religious principles, and then the birth rate will be controlled. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:11, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. Sex not contrary to religious principle is a representation of Supreme Lord. People should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras, beginning with Garbhadhana samskara. Birth should not be controlled by artificial means, for this will lead to a civilization of animals. If one follows religious principles, he automatically practices birth control, because if one is spiritually educated, he knows that the after effects of sex are various types of misery, bahu dukha vaja. One who is spiritually advanced does not indulge in uncontrolled sex. Therefore, instead of being forced to refrain from sex or refrain from eating, he should be spiritually educated. And then the birth control will automatically follow.
Can we just pause here? So here in this section, Srila Prabhupada, he's giving the formula, this so-called artificial, trying to use mechanical ways of controlling birth will never work. In fact, this Garbhadan Samskara, how Srila Prabhupada says, people should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras, beginning with the Garbhadan Samskara. So this is like so key, that's why the Vedic scriptures, are so amazing. They give us this higher knowledge. And if modern, the people of this modern age or Kali Yuga, if they actually read these wonderful books by Srila Prabhupada, it can actually save humanity. Right now we have so many wars going on and so much fighting, for land, for power, even in this own great country of the USA. If the society has such God conscious children, or even if people are God conscious, so much trouble can be saved. Okay. Anyone else would like to continue reading? If one is determined. If not, I can.
If one is determined to make spiritual advancement, he will not beget a child unless able to make that child a devotee. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18, Pitana Syat, one should not become a father unless one is able to protect his child from Mrityu, the path of birth and death. But where is the education about this? A responsible father never begets children like cats and dogs. Instead of being encouraged to adopt artificial means of birth control, people should be educated in Krishna consciousness, because only then will they understand the responsibility to their children. If one can beget children who will be devotees and be taught to turn aside from the path of birth and death, mrityu samsara vartmani, there is no need of birth control. Rather, one should be encouraged to beget children. Artificial means of birth control have no value. Whether one begets children or does not, a population of men who are like cats and dogs will never make human society happy. It is therefore necessary for people to be educated spiritually so that instead of begetting children like cats and dogs, they will undergo austerities to produce devotees. This will make their lives successful.
So here actually, this whole purport is speaking about the glories of Grihasthashram. You know, like how when the husband and wife, when they follow these samskaras and they keep Krishna in the center of their life, the result is such good God conscious children. And then along with that, this aspect comes in where we have this big responsibility once the children are here to make them Krishna conscious, and we will actually then keep Krishna in the center of our life and do everything we can to only make sure that they come out of the cycle of birth and death. The not only the father and mother, even the kids can go back home, back to Godhead. And we know there are so many examples of this. Our Vaishnava acharyas like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had like 10 children, but he would, in one of his songs, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when he comes back home, it's like he's in Golok Vrindavan, non-different from the spiritual world, this right within this material world. And then we can also see like how Grihasthashram is sometimes will not be as smooth as we think it should be. But once Srila Prabhupada, he gave this, I think someone was asking like, there these conflicts between husband and wife, so what should we do? So I think Srila Prabhupada gave the example of Gandhi, who had once a quarrel with his wife, and then he told in the heat of the argument, he asked her to get out of the house. And then this poor lady, she just went out and she was sitting outside. And then after some time, Gandhiji went out and he saw her and he said, what are you doing here? And then she said, you asked me to get out of the house. And he said, no, just forget it and move on. So as Grihasthas, we have to also learn this forget and forgive business. We have our own egos and sometimes differences will be there. But we try our best to oversee these differences. And then Grihasthashram, the other, I want to put this question to you all. There are so many anarthas that we may have, and it is said that lust is the biggest anartha, kama. So would anyone like to share any tips on how one can actually overcome this even in this Grihasthashram? Anyone would like to go ahead and share like what has worked for you all? Like I like once I heard from one senior devotee, like like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that we have to beat this mind with a shoe 100 times in the morning, with a broom like 100 times in the evening. And then one the senior devotee was saying like listening to lectures really helps to set the consciousness right. So if anyone would like to share any similar tips, not just this anartha, even anger, greed. So Gokulananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I was a couple days back. I happened to watch Gauranga Prabhu's class on Brahmotsav occasion at GEV. So he made one wonderful point. I would like to just share here. I just made points there.
Sure, Prabhu.
So he spoke about the lust. So he said lust is two types: prakrita kama and aprakrita kama. Prakrita kama is the material desires, and aprakrita kama is the transcendental desires. So he also mentioned about how Cupid works when the arrow of the Cupid hits, where is it? It first gives harshanam, sense of happiness that is expected. So after harshanam comes is karshanam. Just to gain that particular happiness, one has to karshayati, right? Manashashtani, Krishna says, prakritisthani karshati. So one has to really toil like anything to attain that happiness. After karshanam, I think there is, I'm not able to pull it up. So after karshanam, I think there is roshanam. Rosha is the anger, because, we don't derive the pleasure or happiness as expected. So after roshanam, there is one more. There is maranam, and before that there is, I forgot. There is one more he mentions. The last one is maranam, death-like experience one gets, because of the frustration. So why did I get into this? So as Krishna says, right, there is a poison in the beginning, nectar in the beginning and poison in the end.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. So we'll continue with text 34, 35. Anyone would like to read? Translation.
It was shoshanam before maranam, exploitation.
Oh.
One feels that I'm exploited by the lust.
Thank you, Prabhu.
My dear father and mother, you endured rain, wind, strong sun, scorching heat, and severe cold, suffering all sorts of inconvenience according to different seasons. By practicing pranayam to control the air within the body through yoga, and by eating only air and dry leaves fallen from the trees, you cleanse from your minds all dirty things. In this way, desiring a benediction from me, you worship me with peaceful minds.
Can we read the purport? Would you like to read the purport, Prabhu?
Vasudeva and Devaki did not obtain the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their son very easily, nor does the Supreme Godhead accept merely anyone as his father and mother. Here we can see how Vasudeva and Devaki obtained Krishna as their eternal son. In our own lives, we are meant to follow the principles indicated herewith for getting good children. Of course, it is not possible for everyone to get Krishna as his son, but at least one can get very good sons and daughters for the benefit of human society. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that if human beings do not follow the spiritual way of life, there will be an increase of Varna Sankara, population. Population begotten like cats and dogs, and the entire world will become like hell. Not practicing Krishna consciousness, but simply encouraging artificial means to check, the population will be futile. The population will increase, and it will consist of Varna Sankara, unwanted progeny. It is better to teach people how to beget children, not like hawks and dogs, but in controlled life.
Human life is meant for not for becoming a hog or dog, but for tapo divyam, transcendental austerity. Everyone should be taught to undergo austerity tapasya. Although it may not be possible to undergo tapasya like that of Prishni and Sutapa, the Shastra has given an opportunity for a method of tapasya very easy to perform. The Sankirtan movement.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. One cannot expect to undergo tapasya to get Krishna as one's child, yet simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kirtanadi eva Krishnasya. One can become so pure that one becomes free from all the contamination of this material world, Mukta Shanga, and goes back home, back to Godhead, Param Vijay. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, is teaching people not to adopt artificial means of happiness, but to take the real path of happiness as prescribed in the Shastra, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and become perfect in every aspect of material existence.
So here in this translation and purport, Srila Prabhupada's mood of the Sankirtan movement actually comes out, Srila Prabhupada is saying that we don't have to practice the kind of austerities that Vasudeva and Devaki practiced, but our yajna for this age is Sankirtan yajna, and we don't have to follow these artificial ways of controlling birth and things like that, but instead we follow the instructions of the Vedic scriptures, like following the Garbhadan Samskara and begetting children who are God conscious and who can further on this mission. And that's the real happiness that Srila Prabhupada is talking about. And then in this section, where what happens when we actually follow this Sankirtan movement, when we chant our japa nicely, chant nicely in kirtans, then our heart becomes pure. And like how Vasudeva and Devaki's heart was pure and then Krishna appeared, then Krishna will appear in our heart. And then that's the only way that we can purify our hearts of all the anarthas that we have and go back home, back to Godhead. Text 36. Would anyone like to read? Yes, Mataji. No, we can go. We don't have much time actually, so.
How do we understand this concept that here we're saying if the devotees chant nicely, they will beget nice children. And the other aspect is that we know the soul, before leaving one body, is ready to take another body. So how nice the soul is based on the soul's own karma of leaving one body and taking, they are on their trajectory. And how advanced they are depends on their karma. Versus here, the concept is that the parents, if they are advanced or if they are advancing nicely, then the soul that comes to them is so is it that there are nice souls in some planetary system waiting, and so when, let's say, there was this mention here that if everybody chants nicely, then they will get nice, and the population will become nice. So there are nice souls, but they don't come to earth because they don't get nice parents to come to. And so we should try to do that so that we attract. Or is it that the soul has their journey and based on their karma and what they're advancing, they decide if they want to come to planet Earth or somewhere else? I mean, it can just connecting. I'm thinking very analytically here. Maybe
No, actually, it's similar question was asked, and I think both aspects are there. One is the parents have to do their part, and then what I heard was this whole Garbhadan Samskar, it's not supposed to be like a mechanical process. It has to be done that bhava, like this is not for my sense enjoyment, but this is for the pleasure of the Lord, is why we're performing these samskaras. So I think one is the parents do their part, and then there are souls, then they come, they get their destined birth. And also we hear that, like many times demigods, they want to take birth in the earthly planet, or they may be highly elevated souls. So I think this is an opportunity for those souls to also come down. And then when such exalted souls come, they will really do wonderful things. Like we see so many wonderful devotees born. They're so young and they're still so advanced. Like the story of that Russian girl that I mentioned, Gokulananda Prabhu. Would you like to add something?
That was a wonderful answer, Prabhu. Can I add, with your
Sure,
permission, a
Prabhu,
little bit?
please.
Okay. In my understanding, Krishna has already said in Bhagavad Gita, Prapya Punya Samakritva, right? So, Shujinam Srimatam Ge Yoga Brashto Vijayate. So, those who are practicing, little bit who are practiced, they are given birth in the rich and aristocratic family, and those who are far more advanced, they are given birth, although they are poor, but where there is a facility to practice Krishna consciousness and to advance. So that is already destined for that soul to take birth, number one. And number two, samskaras means, literally it means impressions. So it is said right from Garbhadan Sanskar, we are giving the impressions to the chitta. Chitta is the core part of the consciousness within the subtle body. So that is different. It's a different science altogether. So if we are performing those sanskaras, it is not just a ritual where somebody is invited, and that it is a continuous process of offering the impressions. It is not just restricted to performing a ritual. That is my understanding. So when we give those sanskaras, that is going to affect or hit the core part of the consciousness of that soul, who is already, advanced. The very fact that that soul has come to a family where there is a facility to practice Krishna consciousness, he or she is not an ordinary soul. That is my understanding. So it is not purely restricted or dependent on performing a ritual.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for clarifying.
I want to add something, Prabhu. Like you said, as Prabhuji said, that's why that there are those who are actually not so, they have not reached to the perfection stage. They get chance to take birth in, aristocratic families or families of devotees. And you also said about demigods. They are waiting to come. Actually, even Nitya Siddhas are also coming, right? Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur. So they are already Nitya Siddhas, but they are coming to serve the Lord's mission. So even they are waiting for the right people where they should take birth. So in that way also, if one does their, duties properly, do the proper sanskar and have the right consciousness, then maybe they can invite such great souls in the womb and come and take birth through them, So like they become the nimitta to do the service for the Lord instead of someone else. So that opportunity is definitely there for each of the parent who want to actually beget the children. And also there is a science of, like Garbhadan is a very detailed science. So like doing a sankalpa is very important in that what kind of child do you want, what is your desire, apart from chanting Hare Krishna mantra, whatever the prescribed number of rounds which have been described for the purification, and starting 3-4 months or even before that, and then also making a sankalpa, what kind of kids do you want, and repeating that sankalpa throughout the 9 months, plus maybe 3 months, 1 year. So the kids basically come with those qualities, actually.
Gokulanda Prabhu wanted to add something. So also in this text 35, like the different kind of austerities that Devaki and Vasudeva performed, this can remind us of the austerities that our beloved founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada went through. I heard once there was one really young person who actually saw Srila Prabhupada in the early days. This was even before Srila Prabhupada had any disciples, and he was all alone in New York. And it is said that there was a blizzard of 1966 in New York. There was a lot of snow. And then this young man, he saw Srila Prabhupada had very bare clothing and then pointed shoes, and he was walking. And Srila Prabhupada had the Mahamantra stuck on his back. And then he was just chanting all by himself in the streets of New York. So this is the kind of austerity that Srila Prabhupada endured, and then you see later on Srila Krishna was obliged to send so many wonderful devotees to establish this Sankirtan movement.
And they had patched it up with a duct tape.
Gokulanda Prabhu was saying one devotee posted.
In that particular context, I think my wife had shared one post. In that particular post, there was a picture posted by one devotee, Prabhupada disciple, of the shoe of Srila Prabhupada that he wore during that particular time that you mentioned. And he had a huge hole in his sole of the shoe. And he had put a duct tape to patch it up. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So when we are reminded of these austerities, naturally I think we should be very grateful for what Srila Prabhupada did and continues to do. And as Srila Prabhupada said, the disciple or the follower can never repay the debt that he or she has received from the spiritual master. But I think definitely Srila Prabhupada would be happy when we actually give this knowledge to others. And then how nicely Srila Prabhupada, the whole translation is all about these austerities that Vasudeva and Devaki performed. But Srila Prabhupada's mood just shines out, the mood of Sankirtan, giving out Krishna to others. So I'm really grateful to all the devotees. We just finished our December marathon. And at one point we were way behind on our goal. But by the mercy of all the devotees, we have now a lot of Bhagavad Gitas that we can actually distribute. So definitely if anyone would like to distribute Bhagavad Gitas, we have sponsored books, we can take them, distribute. Like how Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu and so many others have been doing for years and years, decades. Anyone would like to continue with text 36, please? A translation.
As you spend 12,000
Celestial.
celestial years performing difficult activities of tapasya and consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness.
Text, please continue to text 37, 38.
O sinless Mother Devaki, after the expiry of 12,000 celestial years, in which you constantly contemplated me within the core of your heart with great faith, devotion, and austerity, I was very much satisfied with you. Since I am the best of all bestowers of benediction, I appeared in this same form as Krishna to ask you to take from me the benediction you desired. You then expressed your desire to have a son exactly like me.
Let's continue to the purport, please.
12,000 years on the celestial planets is not very long time for those who live in the upper planetary system, although it may be very long for those who live on this planet. Sutapa was the son of Brahma, and as we have already understood from Bhagavad Gita 8.17, one day of Brahma equals many millions of years according to our calculation. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu. We should be careful to understand that to get Krishna as one's son, one must undergo such great austerities. If we want to get the Supreme Personality of Godhead to become one of us in this material world, this requires great penance. But if we want to go back to Krishna, Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti Sorjuna, we need only understand Him and love Him. Through love only, we can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore declared, Prema Pumartho Mahan. Love of Godhead is the highest achievement for everyone. As we have explained.
Just stop here, Mati. So in this first paragraph, we see like how although this translation where Devaki and Vasudev, they wanted Krishna as their son, Srila Prabhupada is saying that that should not be our goal. Our goal is actually to purify ourselves and go back home, back to Godhead. We should not be asking Krishna, please do this for me, do that for me. But instead focus on the mission that Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, the Prema Pumartha Mahan, love of Godhead. So that should be our goal. Please, would you like to continue?
As we have explained in worship of the Lord, there are 3 stages: Jnana, Jnanamai, and Rati, or love. Supata and his wife Vrishni, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, Vrishni inaugurated their devotional activities on the basis of full knowledge. Gradually, they developed love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when this love was mature, the Lord appeared as Vishnu, although Devaki then requested him to assume the form of Krishna. To love the Supreme Personality of Godhead more, we want a form of the Lord like Krishna or Rama. We can engage in loving transactions with Krishna especially. In this age, we are all... continue? Okay. Right. In this age, we are all fallen, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to bestow upon us love of Godhead directly. This was appreciated by the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami says, Namo Namaha... what?
Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha.
In this verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as Mahavadanyaya, the most munificent of charitable persons, because he gives Krishna so easily that one can attain Krishna simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We should therefore take advantage of the benediction given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra we are cleansed of all dirty things, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, we shall be able to understand very easily that Krishna is the only object of love. Kirtananda eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet.
Therefore, one needs not undergo severe penances for many thousands of years. One need only learn how to love Krishna and be always engaged in his service. Sevon mukhi hi jivato
Swayam eva spurat adaha.
Then one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. Instead of bringing the Lord here for some material purpose, to have a son or whatever else, if we go back home, back to Godhead, our real relationship with the Lord is revealed, and we eternally engage in our eternal relationship. By chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we gradually develop our eternal relationship with the Supreme Person and thus attain the perfection called Svarup Siddhi. We should take advantage of this benediction and go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore sung, Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as an incarnation to deliver all fallen souls like us and directly bestow upon us love of Godhead. We must take advantage of this great benediction of this great personality of Godhead.
So we have this. It's not an easy task where we have to purify ourselves, or we can say qualify ourselves to go back home, back to Godhead. And it all boils down to chanting. We may be right now chanting in the offensive stage, but slowly we need to get to the clearing stage, and then from there to the offenseless stage. And it's so important that, like how Burijan Prabhu says, it begins with every mantra. Every time we are chanting, the mind takes us in so many directions, but we have to make that concentrated effort. And we can do that when we chant in the association of devotees, or make the atmosphere like sit in front of the deities, or sit and chant, or just focus. Like it said that if you try to get all your rounds done in one stretch, as many as you can, then the focus is better. So we try our best and depend on, like how Srila Prabhupada says here, Pachita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. It is said that even the most difficult things can become easy when we remember Lord Chaitanya, and the most easy of the things becomes difficult when we forget them. So let's make the best take full advantage of this opportunity and try our best to go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah. Please forgive me, there were so many points in these wonderful purports. I don't think so I covered everything, but I tried my best. Mother Prabhupada Priya, would you like to add something? Can we get the microphone?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I liked how you you kind of drew the parallel between how grihastas need to perform some austerities and be very conscientious to conceive a good, child, to bring an elevated soul into the family, and how, like Srila Prabhupada also, before starting the movement, he performed a lot of austerities. He did a lot of, conscientious planning and things. So it's like whatever we want to do. If we want to do something wonderful, we have to invest in it. You have to invest time, energy, put our consciousness into it, perform some austerities, and any project. So a child, giving birth to a child, raising a child in Krishna consciousness, trying to bring that soul back to Godhead, that's a big project, right? And Srila Prabhupada also, starting a worldwide movement, that's a big project. And the biggest project, like mentioned at the end, is getting ourselves back home, back to Godhead. So that also requires a lot of austerity, a lot of investment, a lot of cultivating the right consciousness. And I liked how you made the point that this thing of Garbhadan Samskara, it's not mechanical, that, you just do whatever throughout your whole life, and then you say some mantra, 30 seconds before conception, and then you get a good, it's like Krishna's not that. Krishna's not a fool. He sees our consciousness, he sees our lifestyle over years, and he sees what kind of environment, that child's going to come into and live in for the next 20 years. And so the most important thing is that we live a Krishna conscious life, and then we'll have Krishna conscious children. And that our Krishna consciousness is the thing that's going to empower whatever we want to do, whether it's having a nice child, whether it's starting a nice project, whether it's, making spiritual advancement. It all depends on that. And the main thing is chanting Hare Krishna. Right?
Thank you, Mataji, for the nice realizations. Gokulananda Prabhu.
Yeah, I just thought of, no matter what you do, sometimes after following everything also, the way this world works is sometimes so strange. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's own children, he had dozens of children, but not all of them were devotees. Couple of them actually turned out to be non-devotees. And I've seen, in Mumbai congregation, few devotees very meticulously, they followed all the, rituals and samskaras. But sometimes they have autistic children and this and that, and children, they don't come up to the expectations. So that facet is also there.
I guess we do our part, and
Thank you, Gokulananda, for that. I was kind of wondering sort of the same thing. There's one sentence that we read where it says that parents should make their kids become devotees. You see that?
in the text.
So we've seen that children are all getting Krishna conscious education. It's like here in this community, all the children have similar experiences. Go to the Gurukul, their parents are devotees, come to the temple. But amongst all of them, we have Poindexter, his sister, and Govinda here that, just love Krishna consciousness. And other kids don't seem to have the same interest, even though they have the same exposure. Their parents did the austerities, like Gokulananda was saying, they became devotees. In Mayapur, I've seen devotees. One time some parents were asking me, what do we do? I tried to make my kid a devotee. We put him in the Gurukula. We bring him to the morning program, prasadam, we perform, like that. So why is it that, how do you make the child into a devotee? That seems like that happens.
It's a very important question,
another way.
But I remember one point where I think Srila Prabhupada says that from the age of 0 to 5, you have to treat your kids like a king or a queen. Then 5 to 10, you have to discipline them. But age of 10 onwards, you have to treat them like a friend. They come with their own past karmas also. So it's said that we can take the horse to the water, but we can't make the horse drink water. It is up to the horse. So we create the best possible samskaras and environment, as everyone was mentioning, for the kids. But then, there were so many examples where kids were forced to chant japa, and then when they grew up, that's the most not interesting thing on their agenda. They never like to pick up their beads. So I think, as parents, we give them the nice environment, and once they grow up, if they have nice devotee friends, then it is said the friends will pull them. Like in our community only, so many younger devotees took initiation. Like one started, then so many of them took, like Rasa Kishore, then Abhay, who gave such a nice class just a few days ago, and then Vishnu, who is doing such nice service, helping Nrsimha Prabhu with so many services in the temple. And then there is Sakshi Gopal Prabhu's son. They come as a family, they've been doing that service for so many years, cooking for the deities. And now their son took initiation, Gauranga Vilas. And we have such a wonderful, we are so blessed to have His Holiness Ritadwaji Maharaj in our community. And Maharaj has invested so much time of his Krishna consciousness life, actually taking these kids on summer tours, or now they have the Sangha initiative where all the young youth are involved. And so like that we create all those nice facilities, and then ultimately we depend on Krishna. We have done our part, and then the rest is between them and Krishna, between the soul and Krishna. That's what I can say. The Gokulanda Prabhu.
I recall Radhana Swami, one time he mentioned, somebody asked this question. He said that it is Krishna who makes the soul advance in Krishna consciousness. So as parents, our duty is simply to facilitate, as you said. We just give the facility, and then rest is all their karma. And you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Prabhupada's own children, they are Mahabhagavad. You can't even call Mahabhagavad. They are higher than Mahabhagavatas, right? So you see, definitely they must have given what Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He would have given the same to other kids also, and Prabhupada also, right? But this is how this world works. So strange.
Mother Tulsi Sakyo, Mother Prabhupada Priya first.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Advaita Acharya, who is like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's Mahavishnu. He had 6 children and 3 of them became devotees and 3 of them didn't. I was remembering that, in the Bhagavatam there's the story of Maharaj Anga, and he gives birth to a very demonic, Anga is a pure devotee, but his son is Vena, who's very demonic. So there in the purport, Prabhupada says, there comes to the stage where Vena is just so bad that Anga just can't even stand living in the household with that child anymore, and he just leaves for the forest. So in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada says that this was Krishna's special mercy on his dear pure devotee Anga Maharaj because he was helping him to become detached. So yeah, I mean, I know parents whose children did not become devotees, and they had to go through a whole process of, accommodating that and becoming detached and accepting Krishna's, divine will, and, it led them to really very elevated states of Krishna consciousness. Whereas sometimes, if everything just goes out wonderfully, it's all just, bowl full of cherries and, prasadam, Krishna prasadam cherries in the family, then, we can get attached to the family. And then we end up taking birth again in that family or something, So, yeah, Krishna has a plan for each one of us.
We probably will do the last comment by Mother Tulsi Saki, and then we can.
Thank you, Prabhu. And as you said, there's so many wonderful points in these, so it's really nice. So I'm coming back to this point. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we gradually develop our eternal relationship with the Supreme Person, and thus attain the perfection called Swarup Siddhi. And we should take advantage of this and go back to Godhead. And sometimes I have heard classes where devotees say, we shouldn't aspire for even this. We should just aspire whatever Krishna wants. If he wants me to stay here and continue serving him. But if I read this, am I to understand that that's a sequential process? That at least in our minds, this is what we should first aspire for, and then having reached a state of this, then we say, okay, Krishna, whatever you want me to do. Or is it that it all happens at the same time? Or, internally, what should I meditate? This seems like a direct instruction to me from Prabhupada, focus on this.
I don't, what comes to my mind is like, it is said that like when the acharyas came to the material world, although they were in the material world in one sense, they were still in the spiritual world because their consciousness was always thinking of Krishna. So we can also try that. We may come back, but we come back to do their service. Like in the early days, I know some devotees went to Prabhupada and they asked him like, Srila Prabhupada, we want to come back to the material world again to distribute your books. And Srila Prabhupada said, I think Srila Prabhupada said, that's a very nice, that's a really nice realization. So even if we do come back, we are so much engrossed in serving Krishna that it's like we are in the spiritual world in one sense. So those are my thoughts. But if anyone else would like to say the concluding words, we can.
Not the concluding words, Prabhu, but thank you for nice class. So just based on the conversation, what I was having few thoughts. One of us, Prabhupada, was telling that birth, death, old age, disease is very distress condition. I was just thinking that it is an irony that when somebody is born, we feel so happy. But Bhagavatam gives us a different perspective that we are coming to a distressed, miserable world. So, and another question was, I think Mataji was pointing out that preparing our consciousness to have Krishna. Few years ago, I heard from Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj that there's based on the soul's previous life, every soul has their own desire. And when they end their previous life, they're looking for parents who have similar desires and similar consciousness. So that's why Maharaj says that we need to prepare our consciousness if we have a desire to have a certain type of child. So then since that soul is searching, it will automatically come to us. And on the last point we were discussing about kids not being Krishna conscious, I feel like everything is a win-win situation in Krishna consciousness. Suppose we have Krishna conscious children, they will help us to get attached. If they are not Krishna conscious also, they will help us to get attached to Krishna, because then we get easily get detached. Because I feel like husband, wife, children, this is not so easy to be detached. It's, at least for me, it feels like it's beyond my ability. But if some things are not conducive for Krishna, it's also a win-win situation, because then we can easily get detached and get more. So I feel everything is win-win situation in Krishna consciousness.
Jai. Thank you. Thank you everyone I learned a lot from all of you. So I'm really grateful. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.